You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hi everyone, I'm so excited. This episode is episode 40 and I have got the wizard of health with me and I'm so excited to welcome Cathy onto my podcast. Hi Cathy.
Hello my lovely, thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, well, I am happy to have you because already you've just given me these little things that have just kind of helped me, and I'm doing my like gut reset with Cathy at the moment, and I think a lot of people will know that I speak about obviously the trauma stuff and all of that and how it sits in the body and how it affects the body physically, and that's been something that I didn't realize the extent of, I think, until last year. And obviously I met you at the same sort of time, so it was convenient that it all fell in. And I think that's how the universe works, isn't it, that I was then learning how the physical aspect of having trauma had actually then manifested in my body, and then now obviously we're working to undo all of the things. So yeah, really exciting stuff. But not only that, Cathy works with all different kind of skin health, body, all of the things. Like if you look at her testimonies alone, you'll see how amazing she is at what she does. So I'm so excited to have you here to tell us about yourself and your story. So give us your introduction
Oh,
about
thank you
you.
so much. So thank you so much for that. I do have to say though, yes, I have got a lot of testimonials, and I was going through them the other day because I was doing some updates on my website, and it just makes my heart so full. But I have to say, yeah, of course I'm guiding people, but it's the people that do the work, because there's plenty of people that sign up to my program or do some one-to-one work and don't do the work, and therefore they're not getting the results. So that's testimonies, obviously, to the person, to the client doing the actual work as well. So I just wanted to say that. But no, I'm really happy to be here. And yeah, where do you want me to start?
But if you kind of tell us like your exact description of what it is you do first, and then we'll dive into a little bit of how you got there.
Okay, so I am Cathy, and my business is as kind of just become to be known as Naturopathy Cathy. And what naturopathy is, I'm a qualified naturopath. So what that means is that I help people to heal in their physical body from the root cause. So just to give some examples of things I can help with, skin issues, acne, eczema, psoriasis, rather than using a cream or a steroid cream or whatever it is as a band-aid approach, I work with a client to find where the root cause is and then rebalance the body, and then it heals. It is, I feel like I've got this magic wand, and it doesn't happen overnight. As I tell all my clients, I really wish I had that magic wand that would make it all better by tomorrow, but unfortunately the body doesn't quite work like that, as any healing, isn't it? It does take time, but I feel so blessed to have the knowledge that I've got and acquired over the years, because I know how to put the body back into balance. It doesn't matter what label we put on it, whether that's a skin issue, whether that's arthritis, aches and pains, and migraines, headaches, hormonal issues. The way to restore balance in the body is essentially the same. Obviously, we go into a bit deeper depending on the actual condition, but the way to restore the body is kind of the same steps every
Yeah.
time. So that's why I've got a group program, so it doesn't really matter what ailment, for example, that you're dealing with, whether that's like an actual gut issue or whether that's a skin issue or a digestive issue, we restore it the same way. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And then yeah, so I think that's why, even especially off a group program, that so many people get fantastic results, because as I say, I've got this like, well, proven method, I guess, that helps
Yeah.
restore what the body's natural balance is, you know.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about why I called you a wizard, because you said about the magic wand thing, because we literally was at an event last year, and I said to Kathy something about, I can't drink red wine at the moment because it just like triggers my body. And she was like, "Oh, you need this, this, and this." And I was like, "How do you just know that?" Off the top of your head, she just wrote down the supplement. So I've been taking the supplement, and I was like, "Wow." And then
Yeah.
again, like you said, it's interconnected. But I think when you know that, I guess for me, it's the same as in like when you were saying about the healing element. Like for me, I can relay everyone's like mental health or insecurities, anxieties down to childhood trauma. So for you, it's kind of similar in another way, but through the body, isn't it? Like you know the pathway, and you can be like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
But obviously, I guess your journey to get there wouldn't have been straightforward. I'm sure that you would have had, a reason why you're doing this now. So I'd love for you to kind of share us kind of what the problem was and like how you find the solution and all of the things. So yeah, you've got the floor. Tell us your story.
Okay, right. Okay. So, when I was a child, I'm going to say seven-ish, I was fine, perfect health, the odd bit of eczema now and again as like a baby eczema, but nothing chronic at all. Then I fell off my bike. I remember it. I was with my friend, fell off my bike, broke my nose, I fell into a wall, broke my nose. And do you know what? When I think back to that, it's almost like it's in slow motion. It's almost like I could like feel myself falling into the wall, but it's just happened. So I do think, I know obviously we're in a very spiritual area, space here, but I do think obviously that happened for a reason. Obviously it wasn't very nice at all, but that sort of slow motion thing that I get in my head is just like, this is, I'm supposed to be, because I wasn't even going fast. I wasn't even riding my bike fast. And anyway, I fell into the wall, broke my nose. I remember having a white t-shirt on, and obviously it was covered in blood. So from there, I had a couple of operations, and my nose is absolutely fine. That was never the issue. Following that, obviously a big shock and trauma to the physical body, I just developed this chronic eczema, like something that you've never ever seen before, and wouldn't ever wish it on anybody. And I couldn't stand up straight because the backs of my legs were so raw that, the actual knee joint, I couldn't stand up properly. So I was having to like walk crouched over, couldn't stretch my arms out. Again, the same, I couldn't do that. I couldn't open my eyes because the eyes were just like glued shut all the time and swollen. Yeah, it just wasn't really a nice thing. And that went on for years. Obviously my parents were great and took me, as we know, just go to the GP and the usual sort of things. And the only thing that they sort of gave me was steroid cream when I was in a real flare, then antibiotics, all those band-aid approaches. And I think we just, that went on for years. And I took the steroid cream, then it would clear a bit, but then as soon as you stop taking that, it just comes back worse. So that cycle continued for a while, and then I think my parents were just like, what on earth is happening here, because that we can't keep going around that cycle. So anyway, cut a quite a long story short. My parents then went to sorted out my diet, really cleaned up. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I guess it wasn't like super clean, and I'm 40 this year, so you can imagine when I was sort of under 10, there's no internet, there's no ready information, there's no social media. So for my parents to actually like find sources of credible information, it was really, really difficult. So I remember going to see this lady that like a herbal lady. She was giving me different things, cleaned up my diet. Obviously couldn't have any of the inflammatory stuff, like chocolates. I've never, still to this day, I've never ever tried Coca-Cola. Still never ever tried it. Because I wasn't, I couldn't have it growing up. So I'm just like, oh, there we go. That's just one of those things, And I've obviously, where I am now, I would never drink it. So it's just one of those things.
You're not missing out, trust me.
No, I'm not. No, I'm really not. No, I'm not bothered. But what else? So, and then we had, I say we, my parents paid for me to have acupuncture when I was about 10. So, that, I mean, even now, that's kind of like a rare thing. You don't really hear of children that young having acupuncture. And I remember saying to my school friends, oh, I'm going to have acupuncture tonight. They were like, what's that? And again, no internet. It was literally Yellow Pages job. Like, okay, let's go there. And we live quite not like out in the sticks, but nowhere near a city or anything like that. So we had to drive a long way, and both my parents were working. So it was a bit, fair play to them. It was total dedication on their part. And that's what sort of sparked my passion to now, I guess, because gradually through the diet changes and through having acupuncture, I was able to cure my eczema, at the root cause. Excuse me. And then, even going into my 20s, then, I'd get the odd flare, but definitely nothing as crazy as what I had, had as a child. And then what was I going to say? Yeah, and then obviously I just, through my 20s, just obviously, took my own learning into my own hands. Then, I wasn't training professionally in my 20s. That came later, but just gaining knowledge, and just so passionate, and like loved it. Nothing else lit me up like that. Like learning about natural health and natural healing.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I think one, there's always a reason as to why we go into these journeys. So I think that's is fantastic to hear that you found that pathway and that your family was so dedicated. But equally, I think that's a sign of just good parenting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure for you now, like 100%, if that was one of your children,
Oh
you'd be
yeah.
like, yeah, of course, that's definitely something I'm going to do. But like you said, we didn't have the resources we did back then, and the fact that they took their own initiative to try something different is amazing. And I think we're really on the cusp of that. I don't know if you're noticing that yourself in your profession, that people are looking at a more holistic way of doing things now, like even down to the most, I guess, generic type of like white collar person that I might speak to is like, oh yeah, I'm doing more yoga for mindfulness, and I'm drinking chamomile tea before bed because it releases anxiety. And I'm like, yes, that's the energy. Because I feel like I've always had an element of that, but I don't know for me if it's cultural. Because I guess like indigenous people have natural remedies that we've just passed down for generations. So just little things that I'd remember that my grandma would have in the cupboard, like certain spices and things like that that we just put when you had a cold, or do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think little things like that I've kind of naturally had an awareness of, and it's only been since well, I guess since when I realized that I had IBS, I was trying to be a bit more mindful of it, but not really understanding how much I could control it. But I do think that being a person that uses their body for work predominantly, I feel like I naturally was kind of sifting into that deeper awareness. Like, I was taking CMOS at one time and like things like that. So I've always dabbled in it. And I think that as the world and the internet's progressed, I've also found the interest in that space. That's why I love hearing your stories and what you do, because it's like so interesting for me. But I believe everything, I know that we have the resources in nature to be able to heal these things. Like I'm fascinated by mushrooms and like, fungi and all of this, all of that stuff is just what we have at nature's core. And you mentioned something really important at the beginning about the fact that the GP uses plaster approaches. And I'm like, that is a mic drop moment. Like that just needs a whole moment in itself, because it is that, isn't it? Even what you were telling me about the pill, because that
Yeah.
was a conversation that we had about my liver had depleted because of being on the pill for so long. I didn't
And
know
complete
that.
all your minerals. So it's not just like just quickly go on onto the pill. So when we take the contraceptive pill, when you have that monthly bleed, when you have that break in taking the pill, it's not actually a bleed, it's just a
Mm.
withdrawal bleed. So, and as women, we are so fortunate enough, believe it or not, that we have this extra detox pathway every single month, whereas obviously men don't. And yeah, obviously there's other things that come with that, but we are releasing energy and built up toxicity through our monthly cycle. So if we are to suppress that, that works in two ways. We're suppressing that so that the liver then gets, if you think of the liver as a bucket, your liver is constantly being put on and on and on and on, and then at some point, different for every person, but that liver is going to start overflowing with toxins, and then that's when we start having symptoms through our skin or aches and pains or migraines. It can show up however it shows up for people, because, as I said, we're suppressing the liver's function when we are taking the contraceptive pill. And then the other side to that, as we were speaking about in the event last year, was that the contraceptive pill depletes our minerals, because your body's working so hard to try and restore some sort of normal balance. And in order to do that, the body has to work really hard. And when, excuse me, when the body's working really hard, it pulls on all our minerals. So,
Mm.
and you can imagine, again, not obviously not speaking for everybody, but if that said person isn't being, focusing on their liver, if that person isn't focusing on their nutrition, leading quite a fast-paced, busy lifestyle, which lots of women are doing, even early
Mm.
on in their 20s, then your body is basically so stressed, and it's just pulling on all of its resources. And yeah, you might be able to get away with it when you're younger, in your 20s, but then all of that soon catches up then as we get into our 30s, or whatever it is. And you know I'm hearing so many more women in their sort of later 30s saying, oh, I'm perimenopausal, I'm perimenopausal. And that might well be the case. However, I'd say a big chunk of it is the stress and the depletion of nutrients that has happened
Mm.
over the years, and then your liver and your hormones are not able to regulate because of all the stuff that's gone on before. So
Yeah, it's so important, and it's so interesting as well, because I think I always knew, as I got to my sort of mid-20s, I kind of realized the pill wasn't good for me. And then I was looking for a way to come out of it in a way that wasn't going to give me like a backlog of things because like you said, I was living a really fast-paced life. So when the lockdown came, that was a perfect opportunity for me to just come off it. And yeah, since then, obviously, I'd started to then have like all of the weird withdrawally things, and my body started to go crazy. And that was when my skin started to go mad. And like you said, it's all connected to this, isn't it? So interesting. And I think this is why, another reason why I wanted to have you on, because I feel like people that aren't aware of this and that do go to the GP all the time for, headaches or things like this, I'm like, there is another way to do this that
always.
actually is a root cause way, and not you relying on medication that is pumped with rubbish, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and just suppressing the body. So how the pharmaceutical industry works, and I'm not saying that it's all bad. In an emergency life-saving situation, I'm 100% there for it. Do you know what I mean? But
Mm.
when we are dealing with something that's daily and chronic, take headaches for example, the pharmaceutical industry just treats the symptom. It just tells your pain receptors, for example, to switch off. Well, that's not getting to the root cause. It's not addressing the why, as to why you're getting those headaches. So it's just a complete, it's just a drugs business, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
I
once
agree.
you're a customer for life, because it's really hard then, not impossible. And I've helped people come off all sorts of medication, obviously with their permission. And I don't tell them anything. I don't tell them, oh, you need to come off that. It's completely with education and guidance, and it's obviously completely their choice. But as you said, it's full of toxic ingredients, tells your body to just suppress. And just quickly, from a naturopathic perspective, I'll give you an example of what's been happening in our household this week, as you can probably tell by my voice. So my boys have had coughs and colds. It's the time of year for it. So in naturopathic medicine, we don't see that as the body has caught a germ and that's happening. Okay, yeah, germs do play a part in it, and whether how susceptible we are to that environment. But it's also a really good time, especially through the winter, when our bodies naturally have lower energy, and we're not as, perhaps not
Mm.
as sociable as we would be in the spring and summer. It's an ideal opportunity for the body to release what it doesn't need.
Mm.
So if we are then taking my children's coughs and colds this week, for example, if we are then going to put like Calpol or paracetamol or bandage approaches to stop the symptom, then this from your trauma and your emotional healing work. If you put in a lid on it,
Mm.
where is it going to go? It's going to stay in the cells, it's going to stay in the body, and then it'll manifest itself either as something else physical, or some emotional. The body is so diverse, isn't it? It'll show up
Yeah.
in in another form. So by before we pressed record, you were just like, oh, what did what do you do for the children, for the healing? I'm like, nothing. Because even though it's not been nice, it's been a rough week in terms of sleep and everything, and of course it's not nice having ill children, and it's not nice when you're ill yourself, but you have to allow the body to push out what's not needed, because overall then you'll have a much stronger and much more resilient system if you allow that process to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And it's so lovely to hear that, because I think I've always had that, even though obviously I've had the stomach stuff with the IBS related to the
Yeah,
trauma stuff, generally I don't tend to get ill. So I think my and I don't know if it's down to just genetics, but also I think I'm very conscious on, like, I have lots of like lemon and garlic and ginger in my diet in general, and chili. And I don't
great.
know if that is like a massive part of it, because my mum gets little colds and things like that, just like because she's talking, I guess, all day with clients and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, I was like, Mum, you need to start drinking lemon and ginger. And since
Yeah.
she's done that, I feel like it's made a difference. And I don't know if that's like a placebo
Yeah.
thing,
Oh,
but
they're really immune. It's kind of talk immune boosting herbs. So yeah, of course it's going to have an effect, and obviously with the lemon as well. It's a really gentle way of telling the liver to start opening up and releasing more toxicity. So if we are able to keep on top of our detoxing, again, I don't mean fads, because I think cleansing and detoxing has become a bit of a fad in some ways. But
mm,
when you're doing it properly and using proper protocols, and gentle protocols, if your body's able to release things, on a week to week basis, through saunas, through, some exercise, opening up your liver with like lemon, etc., then you're keeping that. Oh, nearly knocked my glass over then. Yeah, you're keeping your system in flow. It's not getting backed up and stagnated. And then when that happens, that's when the body naturally, very cleverly, releases it through a cough or a cold or an acute illness.
ah, that's really interesting. That makes sense, maybe why I've subconsciously always done that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I actually love lemons as well. I can eat
yeah.
just a raw
Oh,
one. And
gorgeous.
yeah, people are always weirded out by that. I'm like, I love sour. I love the sourness.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to you, Kathy. So, with your, obviously that was kind of how you ended up getting into this. So then how did you end up making it a career? Because I'm quite interested in how that kind of came about.
It was kind of just happened. I mean, I say that quite loosely because obviously there's a lot of work that's gone into it. But so I used to be a secondary school teacher. So in my 20s, when did the usual, went to university, qualified. I used to be head of languages, Spanish and French, in the secondary school. And do you know what? Even on my first day of teaching, even though I found the job fine, I enjoyed it, but I just knew that it wasn't my forever. And it
Mm,
served me, I was a teacher for 15 years, so it served me for that part of my life. And again, I didn't leave on bad terms or nothing like happened. It was just like I naturally felt, this is the time now. I need to step into my new sort of vocation, shall we say. And it is, I know obviously we're in a spiritual space here, but it's 100% my soul's passion, and everything leading up to when I left teaching in 2022, yeah, 2022, has led me on this path now. So um I had, just backtrack a little bit, so I was a teacher all through my 20s. Then I had my first son when I was 30. He's 8, going to be 9 soon. And so I had a great pregnancy, all fine. And then obviously at some point you're going to need to think, oh, I'm going to need to give birth to this at some point. Hmm. Um, so I remember saying to my husband, we were sitting on the sofa of an evening, and I said, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to go to hospital to give birth." And it was just out of thin air. Like I'd done no research. I didn't know anyone else that had had home births. I was just like, I'm not doing that. And like I said, I hadn't even opened a book by this point. Okay, it was just all instinctively led. And all of our friends who had had children before us, had hospital births, some not great, some traumatic, lots of medical intervention. And obviously that's their journey and that's that's their choice, I guess,
Mm.
at the end of the day. So I just came out of like thin air. And at this point, he wasn't into the holistic health space at all. So he was just like, what you on about? Well, where else are you going to go? Kind of thing. Like, well, that's what we do. And I
Yeah.
was just like, no. I said, I'm not going anywhere. And so we did have a bit of an argument or a discussion, shall we say, over that. Anyway, so I gave birth at home, cut a long story short, and it was absolutely amazing. And from then, I think I just found my inner power, with, in terms of absolutely just trusting what the body
Mm.
can do when we just support it, and just again just leave it, do what it's naturally supposed to do, and had an amazing home birth. And then my eldest son, when he was about 6 7 months, again I breastfed, really clean diet, but he developed chronic eczema, and I was like, oh no, like this can't be happening. No, no, no. I on in textbook I'd done everything
Mm.
right. Right, you know what I'm saying loosely. Birthed at home, no medical intervention, breastfed, totally breastfed. And then he developed this chronic eczema. It was awful, 7 month old baby. And I was just like, what is happening here? How has this happened? And then that sparked it even more then. So, I went to the GP once. So both my children, my youngest son has never ever been to the GP. They don't even know he exists. So probably I shouldn't say that out loud. But and then my first son, he's only been to the GP once at 7 months when he developed this chronic eczema. And the what baffled me was that it was the same treatment and the same advice as when I was 30 years earlier.
Mm.
And I was just like, this is beyond this. And I just said, oh, thank you very much. And I just left. And then I sorted it out myself. And then I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I can do things. And again, I know we spoke about this in the event last year, but I'm constantly guided all of the time, constantly
Yeah.
guided, constantly nudged. Oh, you might want to go and read about this, or you might want to go and
Mm.
so and so about this. I'm constantly nudged in, thankfully, the right directions.
Yeah. Well, I did say to you, didn't I, that you have like a white witch energy, like you find the herbs, the
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah,
that intuition. And I think that's such a beautiful part of, really embracing your feminine energy.
yeah,
And I think, when you step into that fully and you trust it, that's where all the power is, like you said. And I think the fact that, your body was giving you these indications. And also, I feel like, isn't it funny that our soul has a blueprint and it's always guiding you? So, like you said, you had to go through that when you were
yeah,
younger in order to lead you on this journey and this pathway for then it to make sense. And I think, what I kind of would like to know is, what was the emotional journey through one, obviously you having the eczema and that being difficult, because
yeah,
when you said you couldn't walk properly, that sounds
yeah,
horrific.
yeah,
And
not
then
great.
even then seeing it again in your son, there
Yeah.
must have been
Oh,
like a trigger response there.
I think I just went into sort of survival mode. I don't even remember crying about it. I just thought I got to sort this out. I just went into like, like
Mm,
I don't know what the word is, but like, yeah, survival action mode maybe,
yeah.
um, um, and protective mode. I thought that there is no way on this earth that my son is going to go through what I went through. Like it was,
Mm,
that wasn't even a thought. It was just like, I'm sorting this out. I'm doing it. And we did. It didn't happen overnight, as these things tend not to do. But he's going to be 9 in April, and his skin is absolutely perfect. Like I look at him, obviously, you know, the summer we're out in the beach or whatever, and I just look at him and I just think your skin is absolutely perfect. You know, like yeah. So yeah, I just feel overwhelmingly grateful that I was able to do that,
Mm.
because I treat so many children and babies now, not just with skin issues, but some with skin issues, and I just just it's not
Yeah.
nice to see, and I wish, and I obviously I'm guiding them in the path
Mm.
to do that.
Yeah, it's so interesting and such a beautiful, wonderful journey. And I think it is yeah, the reason why again it feels so much more closer to home is because you went through it yourself. And I think that's really the part of it, isn't it, you know? Um but it is common eczema, you know, even my niece, she gets some flare-ups of eczema, but then I know that her diet isn't great all the time. So it is just all of that, isn't it, that plays a massive part in it. And I think another thing, I'm not going to call out people, but I don't think people drink enough water either.
100%. And not just the water, we've got to think about the quality of the water. Are we drinking tap water still? Because that is absolutely toxic. It's so many chemicals, hormones, pharmaceuticals that are fed into that system, that if we're not drinking clean water, and then are our cells absorbing that water? So the cells, sorry, going off piece here a little bit,
No,
so
no,
I
no.
knew it would happen. But our cells, there's a couple of things that need to happen for your water to be absorbed. And one of the things is that you need to have an adequate cell membrane layer. Now, if your cell membrane isn't nice and fluid and light, then things can't get into the cell. So you need to be thinking of like your good fats and your good oils for that to happen. And then similarly, having adequate sodium and potassium, some of the macro minerals that we need for that hydration to get into the cell. So if those things aren't in balance or optimal, then yeah, you could be drinking the water all day long, but you're just going to be weeing it out 2 seconds later. So you're thinking, oh, I'm drinking all this water, and I used to be like this. I'm drinking so much water, it's amazing, but I'm like, I don't feel hydrated, you know.
Mm.
So because my other things were out of balance.
Yeah. And I think that that's a thing for me actually, because I've always drunk filtered
Yeah,
water and
exactly.
or bottled water. And people always say to me, "Oh, do you not need to wee all the time?" And I'm like, "Not really." I
Good.
mean, I go
Yeah, you have a
often, don't
wee.
get me
Yeah,
wrong, but
yeah,
not like abnormally for the amount of water that I drink. So I
yeah.
probably drink about between 3 to 5 liters a day, but
Ah.
only because it's built up through years, you know, of just drinking lots of water. And I think it's because, you know, I carry around this massive jug with
Yay,
me.
I got one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's 2.5. So then I feel like I can easily get through one of those just sitting around. And also when I'm teaching or
Yeah.
delivering, I'm drinking
Oh my
double the
gosh.
amount.
Yeah, it takes it out of you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
but I do think that, you know, before I met you, I was doing the Himalayan salt
Yeah,
in things.
yeah.
Now, obviously, I'll switch that to Celtic
I'll take
salt. And
agree.
obviously, that is the sodium and all of the
That's
potassium
it.
and all
Yeah.
of the things that you were
Mineral.
talking about.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I'm sort of starting to notice a bit of a difference in a good way.
Ah, great. Oh, it's
So,
really good
yeah.
to hear that. Well done, you. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
well done you for being such a good guide.
Well,
But
you're
that's
doing it. So
yeah, no, but I think that is my thing as well. I have this again, I think what I teach is this consistency and discipline is all part of this journey, right? I think,
yeah.
and exactly what you're saying, it's, you know, it comes down to the person that you're teaching, whether they take on board. It's the same with me, with my clients, you know, if they're going to do what I'm saying, you will
Yeah,
get the result. If you're not
exactly.
going to do it, that's why it's not working.
So,
Yeah, bottom line to that, absolutely.
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we've kind of covered like that moment that you gave yourself that permission to shine. Would
Yeah.
you say it was like when your son was
Yeah,
poorly?
definitely. Yeah, obviously, through my 20s, I had that passion and that desire for natural health. They were obviously not on the same scale as what I do now, but just the interest and the passion was there. And I think, yeah, it was after having James, my eldest, obviously the home birth felt so empowered, and I was like, oh, I can do anything. And then obviously healing his skin. And then, I felt pregnant again then, yeah, about 2 years later, and then I had another home birth with my second son, and yeah, and then I think it was about when he was 2 that I started officially studying. um
Mm,
so it was yeah, a bit of a bonkers time, shall we say. And, you know, as a result of that, because I was so busy, I was so depleted as well, because I was head of languages in a secondary school. I had I had two children under three, and I was studying in the evenings. So yeah, that was wild. Um,
Yeah, no, I know that feeling. And I do feel like always when there is that necessary shift, I always feel like you take it all on at once. Like I feel
yeah,
like I had the same situation when I did my masters in the lockdown and even my degree, to be honest. Like it's almost that you have to layer it up with obviously making money,
yeah,
existing,
yeah,
um, socializing. It's always like a build up of all the
yeah.
things. And obviously having children is obviously so much more of a big deal because that's something you can't, there's no escape from that. You can't just have a day off one day. It's always there. So yeah, absolutely different scenario on that. But I love that you did languages. I would never have known that about you
Oh,
at
did you?
all.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I speak French and Spanish, and that's what I did my, my university in. Um, yeah, I mean, I keep forgetting I can do that, because I feel like that's like I feel like, oh, I
Mm,
don't need to do that anymore, but it's still a really good skill to have.
absolutely. Did you
Um,
travel
yeah,
at
I
all?
did. Yeah, I did. I used to live in Bilbao in the north of Spain.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
so it was, yeah, really, really great memories. And me and my husband, we said, oh, I have to go back and take the kids, and we just haven't
Yeah.
got around to doing it yet.
No, I mean, do you go? I guess you can probably go on holiday to Spain and things like that and practice it, can't you? Which
Yeah,
is nice.
yeah. We went to Mallorca end of July last year, and yeah, I'm back talking and everything. Then I'm like, oh yeah, I forget I can do this. But then obviously when I'm back in this role, in the UK,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, days, weeks go by, and I'm not speaking it, and I need to find something that, because it's a skill, and unless you practice it, it does dwindle. So I need
mm.
to another thing to my list.
Yeah. Well, you're a woman of many talents, Kathy,
Oh,
for sure. Um, but yeah, I think just generally, I feel like a lot of the things that I would ask you, I feel like we've covered naturally, which has
yeah,
been great.
yeah.
But that is your name in a tin, you know.
Naturopathy Cathy, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's funny because growing up, I was like used to be like, oh, well, my name's a bit boring. Or just like, oh. But now, again, everything happens for a reason. That it rhymes with
absolutely.
my business. I'm like, oh, I'll take that now.
Yeah, and do you know what I would like to ask is,
Yeah.
because of obviously the way you live your life and your husband and your children, how's your family's view on that? Because obviously, when you go to family meals or things like that, do you have to cook something separate? Like, what's the situation with?
No, no, we just eat really healthily. So, for example, I cook everything. Or my husband, he's pretty good. We just cook everything at home. But if we go out for a meal, then we just eat. You know what I mean? We're not like
Yeah,
or anything like that. And in terms of the children, like we just educate them. And so, for example, obviously the age where there's children's parties all of the time, and as you can imagine, the choice of food at children's parties and the party bags and all the things that come with that, we never ever tell them no. But we just say, this happened, and I think it was last weekend actually. So Jude, my youngest, had a party, and in the party bag was birthday cake. Fine, no problem. So have that. But then there was like all of these sweets, and it really just, yeah, we could have a different conversation about this, but um, so these sweets that were given in the party bag, they were just sweeteners, inflammatory ingredients, all man-made ingredients. And like I read the back to, and obviously he was desperate to have these sweets. Of course he was. And I said, oh, look, Jude, I said, look, I said, you can have them, but I said, I just want you to understand, and Mammy's going to read he's only 5. I said, Mammy's going to read the ingredients to you, because I want you to understand that these aren't great for your tummy, and your body's not going to think that these are going to help you to grow fit and healthy and strong. So I didn't tell him no, and he did
yeah,
have a handful of them. And then it was bedtime. I was like, okay, bin, they are gone. So I think I never ever say no, because I think that that's going to cause problems at
yeah,
some point. But I try to sort of give them the education, so that, even
yeah.
obviously, I'm not naive enough to think that when they get to teenage years, they're not going to make different decisions. I'm completely not that person. But I'm thinking if I can get the education in now, even if they are
Mm,
going to make the not great decisions in the in their teenage years, I want them to have the foundations there so that when they reach adulthood or whatever it is, they know what their body needs, and
yeah.
they know that at home we eat like this, and
Yeah,
that is how it is.
absolutely.
Yeah, that is how it
No,
is.
that's brilliant. And I think I know for sure that you'll be teaching them how to cook their own meals and stuff like that. So they're
Yeah,
not going to be, they might not want to have lots of takeaways. They might be like, oh, actually, I prefer to make that myself,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I think is, from doing your program, I can see the recipes that you
yeah,
make are,
yeah.
examples of what you would buy
That's
somewhere
it.
else. Or,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I think where we live as well, we don't have lots of like places to eat out, if that makes sense. Yeah. And
yeah,
my friends in different places, like, do you know what a restaurant is like? Oh, for goodness sake. I'm not saying like that. Obviously, we've got pubs and restaurants around us, but we don't have like, there's lots of like takeaway places, but then I don't, that's not for me. So for us to go and have a nice meal out somewhere, we have to really like find that nice place, if that makes
yeah,
sense. It's not on our doorstep. So I do find, again, just with busy modern day living, obviously I put time aside every single day to cook the meals. And at times when I'm running a business, I need to do all of the things. That can be a bit like, oh God, how on earth am I going to cook tea tonight? Or do you know what I mean?
mm,
Um, but when I don't have another option, I just do it. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
even if you like just put a jack potato in the oven, I mean that you just shove it in the oven, go and do some other things, and then you can do all your bits. So that would be like my easiest go-to kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always ways to do it. And I think
Yeah,
it's that for me it's that saying, isn't it? It's is it what's it? Fail to prepare or prepare to fail. And I
correct.
think that that's especially with this January kind of stuff, if anyone's listening on time, is
Yeah,
that it's so easy to not do the thing, but the backlay of not doing that thing has a knock-on effect that lasts for a lot
yeah,
longer. And I think when you're trying to set a new habit as well, that if you don't do that thing, even though you don't can't be bothered or whatever,
yeah,
that then is going to throw you off. Then the next day you can't be bothered. Then the next
yeah.
day you can't be bothered. So
You
it's
go
like you
into a bit of
have
a
to,
cycle.
yeah, you have to push through it. And like you said, I'm exactly the same. If I can't make like a full-on meal, I'll either throw together some sort of a salad and or a jacket potato. Like you said, it's just easy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
also just I have a lot of like rice and pasta, and but obviously I'll use whole grain or like something along those lines. I know there's like chickpea ones and stuff like
Yeah,
that now, bits like that.
yeah.
But even so, if I have rice that isn't a whole grain on the odd occasion, it's not gonna make a massive
No.
difference. So
And I think what you've hit the nail on the head there. It's balance at the end of the day. So, obviously if we get that balance right, whether for whatever that means to you, whether that's like a 90-10 balance or 80-20 balance, as long as you've sort of done your healing, if there was any physical healing to take place, then your body can tolerate that. Obviously, I'm never going to advocate that people go and have all the junk all of the time. But if you love to have a pizza, and all of your weekly meals have been nutritious, then of course you can tolerate having that pizza. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
mm,
then if you were to have the pizza and then the chips and then a takeaway, and that balance goes the wrong way around, that is when you're going to start feeling
yeah,
imbalanced and all the things. So I do think balance, and again, trying to zone out from my with what's going on with my children, zoning out, because I know that their meals throughout the week, and obviously at home even on the weekend, are great. So then when we do have a kids party and it's fish fingers and chips or whatever it is, I don't give it any energy, because I just think what it's fine. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
They're not getting
absolutely.
any nutrition from it, but look at all the nutrition they've had
Yeah.
leading up to that
It's
point,
part
you
of
know?
being human, isn't it, as well? And I think
Oh,
that's the important thing. Like, I'm exactly this, what you said, that 80-20. I've spoken about that
yeah,
quite a lot recently about, I like the balance of that. And
great.
I think since
Yeah,
being vegetarian, I feel like it's quite hard to eat badly. I don't know. But I don't know for me if that's because I've always loved vegetables and
yeah,
fruit. So
yeah,
I can just load my plate up with like that. So even, my family are all still meat eaters. So
yeah,
when we have a roast dinner, I literally
yeah,
have the whole roast dinner just
yeah,
without the meat. And it's so
exactly.
easy. I've just got like,
Yeah,
and everyone always says to me, your plate is piled up. And I'm like, well, you lot think I don't eat anything. I'm like,
yeah,
you can see now. And but
yeah,
everyone knows I eat a lot. But I
of
think it's
course.
because obviously being an athlete,
Yeah,
it's that thing, isn't it? Being a performer all these years or whatever, my body is still in that churning process,
yeah,
especially at the moment. Obviously, I did the 3-day cleanse for your
yeah.
program. So my body lost loads of like um just whatever that is, water weight, is it?
Yeah, inflammation, just inflammation and stagnation in general. Oh, I'm so glad that you did that. Did you get on okay with it?
I mean, it wasn't nice, Cathy. I'm not going to
Yeah,
lie to you, but it's and everyone was saying to me, "Oh, let me know how it goes." I was like, "It's awful. Like, don't do it unless you need to, because people think, oh, I'll do it as a little weight loss thing. No, 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 no. If you're going to do it, you have to do it
yeah,
because of medical reasons or
yeah,
health reasons.
yeah.
Um, because yeah, just flush your life out, don't you? Literally out of your whole body. It's just
Yeah.
literally gone. But I then started taking the extra the in vivo,
The microbia?
yeah, a
Yeah,
week later, so
good.
then, or a
Yeah,
couple of days later. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Great.
feel like I'm now in the swing of taking all of the supplements. So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're coming towards the, well, yeah, you're over halfway now, really, aren't you? You're on those
Yeah.
herbs, and then yeah, after that, it'll just be the healing and sealing the gut lining powder. So you're on the homeward stretch now. You've done the hard bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely the hard bit.
Yeah, yeah,
But then I think because I'd obviously gained access before Christmas, I was kind of
yeah,
aware of what I needed to
yeah,
do. So I was
yeah.
prepping the whole way through, and I
Of
was still doing the morning thing
course, of
from
course.
that early
Mhm.
stage. So I feel like my body's kind of got used to it. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
so incredible. And I'd love for you now to kind of talk to the audience about what it is, how they can work with you and what your
Yeah.
programs are that you've got, because yeah,
Oh,
I'm a massive advocate of what you do, and I think it's so important. I think even if people book just a consultation with you, or like you were doing the short sessions, aren't you, as well? Even there's lots of things you offer, so I feel
yes.
like just tell us all of them, and
Oh,
then yeah,
okay.
people can find you.
Great. Okay, so if I start, well, first of all, you can follow me on Instagram at Naturopathy Cathy, and I give loads of free information and knowledge and things there. Oh, have we frozen? Not sure. There we go.
Mm.
So I wasn't sure if I'd frozen then, sorry. So yeah, at Naturopathy Cathy, and you can drop me a DM anytime. And my signature program is obviously the one that we've been referring to here. It's called the Gut Cleanse Reset program. So it's an 8 weeks program. You get support in it, but it is self-led. So you get obviously your login details, and then all the lessons are week by week. Self-explanatory. Week 1, you need to do this. You need to buy this. Week 2, you need to do this. All the lessons are there pretty much. Okay. And you get access to a Facebook support group for 3 months, where obviously any questions that arise, like, oh, is this normal to feel this, or can I have this, and any questions, I'm there to support you. And actually after this chat, I'm going in the support group just to touch base with everybody. Then from there, I also offer hair mineral analysis testing. So I've actually got just to show you here, this is what it looks like. Okay. And with hair tissue mineral analysis, it gives us the breakdown of what your minerals are doing in the body. It sounds more simple than what it actually is, because it's such an amazing test. It can give us information on your adrenal glands, your thyroid, how well your cells are functioning. Can we get nutrients in? Can we get nutrients? Can we get waste out? Your detoxification pathways, etc. So it's actually an amazing test and an amazing root cause test that I offer. So that's sort of the next thing up from the group program. And then obviously I work one-to-one with them, with clients over 3 months or 6 months.
No, it's so incredible. And I urge anyone that's, maybe had, eczema, acne, whatever it is, any skin health issue, especially I know a lot of people have fatigue and things like that. And I feel like that's all things that you can cover
Yeah.
so easily. And I'm really interested in the hair mineral thing. And I think
Yeah.
more people should be doing that. I think if we understand ourselves and what's going on in our bodies, it's just like a really wonderful thing. And I'm thinking probably um maybe in the next few months that might be the next thing that I need to
Great.
do, just to see, because obviously
Yes.
it'd be great to see if the cleanse has made an impact on my body, and
Of course. Yeah.
um but I have a feeling that I feel like it already is. I feel like I'm already
Oh,
starting to notice like not feeling like off in my stomach, and things like that. I've already started to notice the difference.
great. Oh, it's really
um
good.
So yeah, I think it's great, and I would love people to work with you because obviously I'm a massive advocate. I will pop all of your details in the show notes, so we'll definitely get all of them over, all your links and anything else that you want to add into that. And then yeah, kind of just before we go, because I know that obviously you've said obviously it being a spiritual space, and you know that of me as well. The way I like to round off the podcast is like a little soul to soul message. So I feel like on whatever you feel is right and the message that you feel like you need to say. It could be to your younger self, it could be to someone listening, but like, what is a message that your soul wants to share before we wrap up?
Good question. Okay, I think it's listen to the whispers of your body because it's always communicating with you. And in modern day living, fast paced lives, working, children, socializing, or whatever that may be, we often either ignore or just don't feel it because we're so in our heads. So listen to those whispers because you want to catch them when they're whispers rather than when they're shouting at you.
Mm,
Um, and when things are quieter symptoms, shall we say, or a bit more subtle symptoms, then they're much easier to put right. Whereas when something gets more serious and more chronic, yeah, everything is fixable in my opinion, but it just takes that bit longer and that bit more in depth to look at.
yeah, definitely. No, I love that. And I think that's such a lovely message because I think, we always talk about our intuition and how important it is. I think, yeah. And, for me, I'm a firm advocate of how our body keeps the score. So, yes, absolutely. All of that. Thank you so much, Cathy, for
Oh,
joining me.
thanks
I
for
feel
having
like,
me.
yeah, you've got so much wisdom. And yeah, it's just great. I feel like we need to have more people and practitioners doing what you're doing because this needs to be the way that the world goes now, and I have a belief that is actually what will happen. But yes, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we can chat again anytime.
Amazing.